Alright, let's dive into a tale from September 1911. Picture this. The Royal Navy cruiser HMS Hawke is cruising in the Solent, that narrow channel near the Isle of Wight. It's a nice, clear day, and Hawke finds itself sailing next to a much bigger ship, the RMS Olympic, a massive new luxury liner of the White Star Line. Suddenly, Hawke's bow unexpectedly veers towards Olympic's stern and crashes right into it. The collision leaves Olympic in need of repairs, disrupting the White Star Line's plans. The company was in a fierce competition for dominance in the North Atlantic passenger trade, with Olympic and the upcoming Titanic as their next big investments. But now, Olympic had to head back to Belfast for repairs, putting a dent in their operations. As Olympic and Titanic sat side by side for repairs, a theory emerged. What if the collision was part of a sneaky plan? Some believe that the White Star Line and the shipyard, Harland and Wolff, conspired to commit a massive insurance fraud. The idea was to swap the damaged Olympic with Titanic, send it on a doomed voyage under a new name, and sink it intentionally for the insurance money. This theory has been circulating online for years, sparking debates and inspiring various media. But is there any truth to it? Today, we'll revisit the Olympic-Titanic switch theory, digging into reports, testimonies, photos, and films to uncover the reality behind this controversial idea. To grasp the theory's roots, we need to rewind to 1947 in a suburb of Oxford, where a man named Robin Gardner, a Titanic enthusiast, began crafting his unique theory. Gardner, a plasterer and amateur engineer, penned a book called Riddle of the Titanic in 1995, sparking a series of works exploring his intriguing hypothesis. It was a huge shock. Let's dig into Gardner's ideas and arguments in more depth. But first, we got to talk about the big event that got everything started, the Olympic and Hawke crash. Let's rewind the clock all the way back to 1911, way before Headington and its rooftop shark. In September that year, the White Star Line was riding high on the success of their new ship, the RMS Olympic. It was a grand ship, the biggest and fanciest British ship at the time. White Star and their rival, Cunard Line, were in a fierce competition to build the best ships for the transatlantic passenger trade. These ships were massive and luxurious, shuttling people between Southampton and New York. In September 1911, on its fifth voyage, the Olympic set sail from Southampton to New York with over 1,000 passengers and almost 900 crew members. Captain E.J. Smith was at the helm, and everything seemed routine. But sailing through the narrow Solent Channel was tricky, especially with other ships around. As the Olympic headed towards Spithead, the Royal Navy cruiser HMS Hawke came into view. The two ships needed to navigate carefully around each other, but things went south. The Hawke got too close to the Olympic and collided with it, damaging the liner's hull and propeller shaft. The Olympic managed to make it back to Southampton, but the damage was serious. It wasn't until the ship was dry-docked in Belfast, next to its sister ship, the Titanic, that the full extent of the damage was clear. Workers were pulled from the Titanic's construction to fix the Olympic as quickly as possible. The White Star Line was in a tight spot financially, with costly repairs and no insurance payout in sight. The British Naval Court blamed the Olympic for the crash, adding to the company's woes. This is where Gardner's theory comes in, suggesting that the Olympic was so badly damaged that it was useless to the White Star Line. There were concerns about a ship's seaworthiness being compromised, while another ship, the Titanic, was being built and almost finished. Some people think the White Star Line planned an insurance scam by switching the damaged ship with the Titanic. The damaged ship would be disguised as the Titanic, sent on a fake voyage, and then deliberately sunk for insurance money. The new Titanic would take the damaged ship's name and continue without anyone knowing. This theory gained attention in the 90s and suggested that the damaged ship's collision was worse than reported. The ship's hull plating needed replacing over a third of its length, not just the reported 38 feet. There were doubts about the accuracy of the damage assessments from the collision. Detailed pictures showed the damage caused by the collision, contradicting the idea of extensive damage. The theory also mentions damage to the propeller shaft and engine, suggesting more hidden structural damage. So, let's dig a bit deeper into the hull situation. It seems like the cruiser didn't go as far in as some thought, probably not more than 8 feet into Olympic's side. Hawke's ram stuck out a bit from the ship's front, leaving 2 holes in Olympic, one from the tip of the bow and the other from the ram itself. If the bow had gone in further, there would have been 1 big hole instead of 2. But that's not the case. The 2 holes match up with where the bow parts entered Olympic, about 8 feet from the front. The evidence from inside the ship after the crash lines up with White Star's findings. The propeller shaft and bossing were damaged, but there's no deep hole to the keel. In simple terms, the official inquiry found that 2 big watertight compartments flooded, the hull plating was gashed from the orlop deck to E-deck, and the starboard propeller shafting was damaged. The photos back this up. So, we get a clearer picture of what went down during the collision. But Gardner thinks there might be more to it. He mentioned that with only one main engine working, the liner travelled at about 10 knots, wasting steam that could have powered the central turbine engine. This suggests the engine, or its mounting, was damaged. Since the engine was above the keel, it's likely the keel suffered damage too. This could raise doubts about the ship's structure. But the official report disagrees. A naval architect, Harry Roscoe, who checked the damage, testified that it was 38 feet away from the keel and above it, so the keel was safe. We already knew this from mapping Hawke's bow's path earlier. But here's the thing. Even if the keel was damaged, would that really make the ship useless to its owners? Would a damaged keel mean the end for the ship financially? Gardner believes the folks at Harlan & Wolff realized the damage was too much to fix economically. The ship could be patched up to sail again, but it wouldn't pass inspections for a new seaworthiness certificate. It's like a car that looks fine after a crash, but has a compromised frame. Ships are different, though. Many damaged ships have been fully repaired and put back into service. Harlan & Wolff was skilled at this. For instance, the Paris steamship was repaired after running aground in 1899 and served for 24 more years. Gardner thinks Olympic was too damaged to pass inspections, but history shows otherwise. Dr. Stephen Payne, a respected naval architect and engineer, shared insights on ship damage and repairs. He's designed many ships, including the Queen Mary II, so he's well versed in this area. All right, let's break it down. So, there was this incident where a ship, let's call it Ship A, got into some trouble. Ship A didn't sink, thankfully. It had some damage, but nothing too extreme. Other ships have faced worse situations and still managed to get back on track. Take Ship B, for example. It ran aground, got split in 2, but they fixed it up and it was good to go. Then there's Ship C, like HMS Belfast, which hit a mine, got messed up, but they repaired it and it served well after that. So the idea that Ship A was beyond repair is just not true. Sure, it needed some work done, but nothing catastrophic. Now, let's talk about Ship D. This ship got lengthened by cutting it in half and adding a new section. It's pretty wild what you can do with a ship if you have the right tools and space. Ship E and Ship F also went through similar transformations. They were cut in half and put back together with new sections. It's impressive how resilient ships can be when it comes to repairs and modifications. And then there are those head-on collisions, like the one between Ship G and Ship H. Ship G's front got crushed, but they simply replaced that part with a new section. No big deal. The bottom line here is that ships can take a lot of beating and still come out strong. Even if Ship A's keel was damaged, which seems unlikely, there were skilled folks ready to fix it up. Now, let's address the big claim. Some folks suggest that Ship A was so messed up that faking an insurance claim would be easier than repairing it. But history shows us that ships can endure a lot and still sail for years. Whether Ship A's keel was actually damaged doesn't matter much, because the company had the means to handle any repairs. Now, about the alleged insurance scam. The idea is that the company wanted to make some quick cash by switching Ship A with another ship. Let's call it Ship W, and then sinking Ship 1 to claim the insurance money. Sounds fishy, right? The plan was to boost the insurance payout and make a profit from the whole ordeal. According to the theory, the insurance on Ship 1 was upped just before it supposedly sank, leading to a hefty payout. This move could have raked in more money than selling or scrapping Ship 1. The mastermind behind this scheme was said to be a big shot named Mr. Morgan, who was linked to the company in charge. Allegedly, Morgan hiked up Ship Eye's insurance to double the original amount. Just a few days before its first voyage, the amount of insurance on the Titanic was changed. This alteration meant that if the Titanic sank, the White Star Line would make a lot of money. This change would have allowed White Star and IMM to deceive their insurance company successfully. They not only got rid of the damaged Olympic, but they also fully financed the replacement ship and then some. Let's start with the solid proof, beginning with the actual insurance amount for the Titanic. If the ship was insured for $12.5 million, there should be records to back this up, but in reality, the evidence shows otherwise. The Titanic was underinsured by $2.5 million. The company spent $7.5 million on the ship, but the original insurance documents only showed a payout of $5 million for the total loss. This fact is supported by statements from Ismay and Philip Franklin, the vice president of IMM in America, confirming that the ship was not fully insured and White Star carried the remaining risk. This was a common practice for White Star ships and the industry as a whole. In addition, a letter to all White Star captains warned them about the risks of accidents due to inadequate insurance coverage. The Titanic's insurers, Lloyd's Maritime Insurers, also confirmed the ship's insured value. Official documents on Lloyd's website prove that the insurance payout was agreed upon with White Star. Different underwriters shared the risk, ranging from £200 to £75,000, and by January 11th, the insurance was settled. The Olympic and Titanic were insured for £1 million each, which was almost $5 million in 1912. There is no evidence to suggest that White Star or IMM profited significantly from the Titanic's sinking. Historian Mark Chirnside noted that even the repairs on the Olympic wouldn't have caused financial trouble for the company. He mentioned that White Star's profit for the year ending December 31st, 1911, was over £1 million surplus, higher than IMM's. So the idea that the switch theory is based on seems weak. The repairs on the Olympic weren't as costly as claimed, and the insurance payouts after the Titanic's sinking weren't as profitable as suggested. Even if the insurance money was hidden through manipulation of financial reports, staging an event to destroy the Olympic would have been extremely challenging. Swapping the Olympic and Titanic convincingly would have been much harder than portrayed. Next time on The Titanic Conspiracy, we'll dive into the complexities of swapping the two ships. We'll analyze photos and rare films to determine which ship is which. By combining evidence of the damage to the Olympic with what lies at the bottom of the ocean, we'll explore if the Olympic and Titanic switch theory was feasible. Stay safe, stay happy, and see you next time.